When I was growing up in Ireland, I was a shy kid, especially when it came to school dances. My mother used to always say to me, "Brian, you can't dance sitting down." Ma. Christmas is a time of always to me, a time to revisit the old and the familiar. I grew up in Clonakilty in West Cork, and I always felt secure and sometimes encouraged when the same decorations appeared on the tree each year, when the lights were strung across the same streets of the town, when the nativity scene appeared in the church. All of the O'Donovans, 9 of us children, Aileen, Mildred, Michael, Carmel, Margaret, James, Anne, Brian, Raymond, and my parents, Jim and Joan, would follow a set pattern on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Rituals that were sacred, even if they applied to fairly mundane things, like who got to light the Christmas candle on Christmas Eve, or who got the first cup of Van Houten's cocoa made by my godfather, Paddy McCarthy, a bachelor all his life who loved to visit us after tea on Christmas Eve. And Christmas was just full of always. We always visited Santa Claus on the 8th of December, the feast of the Immaculate Conception. A baffling holiday to me when I tried to get the details of it right. We would journey to Cork City and visit many stores, each with their unique Santas. Santy, we called him. Fake beards but genuine smiles. Once I remember coming down a slide into where Santa was, the magic of it, only to find him discussing the latest football results with my father. And other Santas who smelled amazingly like the inside of my grandmother's pub in Kinsale. Our Christmas tree was always bought from the Galvin family, who lived in Rathbarry, on the edge of the big wood. And in the mid-1960s, still a fairly poor time in Ireland, we always rented, for heaven's sake, a television for the week between Christmas and New Year's. The electrician who had to install the aerial on the chimney, remember aerials? He always did so on Christmas Eve, arriving late, always after a few pints, and then, in dramatic fashion, shouted down from his precarious position on the windy heights of our roof as he made his scientific adjustments. "How does the picture look now?" We always rose early on Christmas morning and went to First Mass. We always sat in front of the manger scene, the creche, as we call it here. The cow, always with her sad eyes, the donkey with an eternally chipped ear. The baby Jesus, who always looked far too plump and happy and about 4 years old to me. The shepherd with the lamb across his shoulders, and in the distance the 3 wise men, Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar, bringing with their exotic names incomprehensible gifts. Well, gold we understood, but frankincense and myrrh? Imagine if you woke up on Christmas morning, my brother whispered in my ear one Sunday at Mass, and Santa had given you a box of frankincense. And of course, we were always together for Christmas, always, my whole family. Aileen, Mildred, Michael, Carmel, Margaret, James, and Brian Raymond. Except for that time that my oldest sister, Aileen, who had gone to work in Dublin, called. And I remember so well that day. I remember where I was in the house. She told us that she was not coming home for Christmas. And my precious Christmas always were gone forever. Christmas sparkles in my childhood memory. One of the traditions in my own family is to read Dylan Thomas' classic account of a child's Christmas in Wales, where he says in the opening lines, "One Christmas was so much like another that I can never remember whether it snowed for 6 days and 6 nights when I was 12, or whether it snowed for 12 days and 12 nights when I was 6. He goes on to write that his always were uncles and aunts gathered in his little house. There are always uncles at Christmas, the same uncles. And on Christmas morning, mistletoe hung from the gas brackets in all the front parlours. There was sherry and walnuts and bottled beer and crackers by the dessert spoons, and cats in their furabouts watched the fires, and the high-heaped fires spat, all ready for the chestnuts and the mulling pokers. Some few large men sat in the front parlours without their collars, uncles almost certainly, trying their new cigars, holding them out judiciously at arm's length, returning them to their mouths, coughing, and then holding them out again, as though waiting for the explosion. And some few small aunts, not wanted in the kitchen, nor anywhere else for that matter. They sat on the very edge of their chairs, poised and brittle, afraid to break, like faded cups and saucers. Reading passages like this from writers like Dylan Thomas and Patrick Kavanagh year after year, Christmas after Christmas, I can almost recapture some of that time that was always for me. And this is a time of year indeed when we allow ourselves to be nostalgic, even sentimental, when a snippet of memory becomes a treasure that can transport us back decades in an instant. On Christmas nights long ago, my sister Anne and I would sneak away after Christmas dinner to the upstairs sitting room with its wonderful fireplace, lighting brightly on Christmas night, one of the few times during the year that it was lit. We would turn off all the other lights but those on the Christmas tree. And there, in the warmth of a fireplace glow, we would always eat a whole layer of biscuits from a red tin importantly branded USA. We would drink white fizzy lemonade, me and my sister Anne, always. Always on Christmas night, there was music, Dylan Thomas writes. An uncle played the fiddle, a cousin sang Cherry Ripe, and another uncle sang Drake's Drum. It was very warm in the little house. Auntie Hannah, who had gotten onto the parsnip wine, sang a song about bleeding hearts and death, and then another in which she said her heart was like a bird's nest. And then everybody laughed again, and then I went to bed. Looking through my bedroom window, out into the moonlight and the unending smoke-colored snow, I could see the lights in the windows of all the other houses on our hill and hear the music rising from them, up the long, steady falling night. I turned the gas down. I got into bed. I said some words to the close and holy darkness, and then I slept.